Grand Marshal in our 100th Veterans Day parade. And I want to thank all those veterans for the freedom they have provided us, the service they had given. What would have been nice with this week that we'd actually pass appropriation bills for our troops, for their pay raise, for the funding to make sure they're safe and protected on the job that they have to do. But unfortunately, this week is just about impeachment. The American public was able to see what this Democrat majority has been working on for the last 3 years, just impeachment. I want to recognize the Republican members and staff of the Intelligence Committee. I thought they did a great job yesterday. With poise and purpose, they brought forth the truth out to the public after weeks of Adam Schiff keeping them in the dark. We didn't walk out of yesterday's hearing with any new information than we already walked in. So let me quickly recap what we do know. The call summary is still the most important piece of evidence we have, and it shows no pressure or even mention of conditionality between the two leaders. The Ukrainians did not know security assistance was under review until over a month after the call. The full assistance was provided and no investigation was opened. We did hear from the witnesses was that they had never spoken to President Trump. They had not met with the chief of staff. Their understanding, which is the foundation of the case for the Democrats, was based on secondhand information. Remember what yesterday was. The Democrats had home field advantage. They got to change the course of the rules of how to handle a meeting itself. They got to pick the witnesses they wanted, and they tabled the opportunity for a whistleblower to come forward and even protect that person's identity while they presented to the committee. With all of that, we found out nothing new. One of the witnesses actually admitted, what I can do here for you today is tell you what I've heard from people. This lacks the basic explanation of fact witnesses. Those witnesses did rely on their expertise, though, to underscore how much safer Ukraine is today under this administration with President Trump. After Russia invaded Ukraine, the previous administration sent thermal blankets. The Trump administration sent tank-busting bombs. So I'll refer back to what Speaker Pelosi said earlier this year, just in March, about impeachment. You all recall that this is so divisive to our country that it has to be so compelling, so overwhelming, and bipartisan. Otherwise, we should not put our country through it. I think Speaker Pelosi should hold to her own words. There's nothing compelling. There's nothing overwhelming. And the only bipartisan vote we had was to end impeachment. But apparently she doesn't stick with her words. I thought what was most ironic yesterday was the setting for the hearing, the Ways and Means Committee room. Democrats on that dais tried to spend their entire day to discredit the president's and this administration's foreign policy and their success. Not only were they wrong, they did it while hijacking a committee where we decide on our trade policy. They did it while having Ways and Means where the USMCA, United States, Mexico, and Canada trade agreement can only make our top two traders only stronger as we have negotiations with China. It only emphasized again what is not being done in Congress and what should be being done in Congress. Impeachment has overtaken every single committee. We're less than a year away from the election, but these Democrats do not trust the American public. They will continue to try to make something up when we have the facts of the phone call. We know there was no pressure to either leader, and the money was released. And Ukraine is actually stronger today with the new administration leading America. With that, let me open it up for questions. Yes, sir.
Mr. Leader, James Rosen Sinclair. I wonder if you can explain to the American people why they shouldn't see it as disingenuous on the part of the House Republicans to hear you assert, on the one hand, that these witnesses lack credibility because they are only offering second and third-hand information, at the same time that you enthusiastically support the White House blocking from testimony those witnesses like John Bolton and Mick Mulvaney who would have first-hand information. Either you want first-hand information or you don't.
Well, what's very interesting is we have first-hand information. We have something that I believe the Speaker of the House, had she waited 48 hours, we never would be putting America through this. We have the transcript. It's not what someone thought they heard. It's not what someone was told fourth hand. We actually have the two people on the phone call that a whistleblower who was not that started this process. So we know exactly what words were said to one another, and we can walk all the way through that. We have all the information that we need to what Adam Schiff believed that was something different. Adam Schiff sat at the dais and read something that he wished had transposed inside that transcript that didn't. All of America can read it, and that's why, if you take Speaker Pelosi's words, it has to be overwhelming, it has to be so compelling, and it has to be bipartisan. She doesn't meet one of her three criterias to move forward.
But just to be clear, in the setting in which the Republicans now find themselves, which is an impeachment proceeding, you are against hearing from witnesses who have firsthand knowledge of the president's thoughts and
I'm not averse to hearing from any witness. I wish, from the standpoint, if we go back to this moment, if we go back to the moment when Adam Schiff first came forward, that he was so concerned that the administration was going to withhold a whistleblower from presenting to Congress, that's what he was fighting for. The only reason why Adam Schiff is now stopping and moving to table that motion is because we found out that Adam Schiff and his staff met with the whistleblower. Adam Schiff and his staff met with this whistleblower before this whistleblower had an attorney, before this whistleblower went to the Inspector General. He's the only person in staff who knows what the whistleblower has said. But we have all the facts we need inside a transcript of the phone call itself. Yes.
You just asserted, and several Republicans did this yesterday in the hearing, that Adam Schiff either personally met with the whistleblower or knows the identity of the whistleblower, which he continues to deny. Can you just say it plainly? Do you think he's lying?
Yes.
You say that this should be...
And I don't think it's the first time he's lied to us either.
You mentioned that you and your fellow Republicans think that the issue should be focused solely on the president's words on that call. Look, read the transcript. And yet you have this growing number of State Department officials, career public servants, who say that what they saw was highly irregular, even crazy. Are they all wrong?
You know, yesterday, Congressman John Radcliffe left a question to these two witnesses who have never met the president, were not on the phone call, has not talked to the chief of staff, and asked them, what do you see impeachable? Is there one impeachable item in there? They could not answer one. Remember what we're discussing here. We're talking about removing a duly elected president. You take that so lightly. We have the transcripts. You know, Alexander Hamilton warned of this, that this day may come, that a person may have the majority within sight of Congress to use impeachment for their own personal political gains. We've watched how many times they've tried this in the last 3 years and failed. And now we watch Adam Schiff one more time leading the charge.
You say not impeachable, but is any of it inappropriate to you?
It is not. Are we having a hearing about inappropriate? Or are we having an impeachment inquiry? It goes to the core of the fabric of democracy. Do you take it that lightly that you just had the U.S. Congress vote about an impeachment inquiry and then change the rules of the House where you don't have due process? You move it out of the Judiciary Committee to the Intel Committee and make it an impeachment committee. You have secret meetings inside the basement of the Capitol. You have not released all the transcripts. You audition who you want to bring forward, and we just watched the two witnesses that they wanted to pick. You deny the minority to bring witnesses forward. You deny the president, who you're moving to impeach, to have an attorney in the room to cross-examine, the same respect that anybody else that moved for impeachment had before. So yes, the question is, nothing is there as impeachable, and we should not be putting our country through this. We're less than a year away from an election. And the worst part of all of this, we just had Veterans Day. Next week, government funding stops. And we're not funding the troops. We're not giving the pay raise that we believe we should. We're in a negotiation with China, which is our number 3 trader. But our number 1 and number 2 traders are Mexico and Canada. We would only be stronger as a nation in our negotiations with China if we were past United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. But none of that is taking place. We're not spending this week talking about the funding that needs to go forward. No one's mentioned a word about that because everything's been taken over about impeachment. The same thing this majority has done for the last 3 years. And I leave you the question. Name me one thing this majority problem they have solved. And name me one thing that those witnesses said yesterday was impeachable. So why are we putting the country through this, and why aren't we working on the things that the American public expects us to do?
Leader McCarthy.
Yes.
You Republicans, the president, have been critical of some of the testimony yesterday. This is second-hand, third-hand. Next week, you're going to hear directly from Gordon Sondland, who President Trump put in this position, is certainly a supporter of the president and the contribution that he made to the inauguration fund. Would his testimony change your calculation on whether or not there was an impeachable offense if he corroborates what these other witnesses have said?
And what have these other witnesses have said that could rise to impeachment?
We heard that there was a phone call overheard between Sondland and the president where the president asked about investigations.
Okay. Well, you have a phone call where the president asked about an investigation that's already going forward that I think most of America wants to know what transpired, an investigation that the Attorney General is working on. None of that is impeachable. So the answer is no.
Leader McCarthy.
Yes.
Walking out of the hearing yesterday, many Republicans thought that the Democrats didn't lay a glove on the president and say nothing is impeachable, said we learned nothing new. That said, is it the Republican position, regardless of what is right or wrong here, that there is no vulnerability to Republicans from swing districts of over-defending the president or standing foursquare behind him as we move into an election? Are you confident that this is not going to affect them in any adverse way, standing behind the president as we move toward the 2020 congressional election?
I think what Republicans are doing is standing up for the Constitution. I think the same thing the two Democrats who voted against impeachment inquiry are doing, are standing up to the Constitution. I think it's the same things that Alexander Hamilton warned us about, that you would use it for political gain from the same basis of going forward. I think what Republicans are standing up for is the idea of what they ran on. First thing I think a majority should do is pass a budget, which the Democrats have not done. They should actually make sure that they fund the government, which we have not done. We're working to now have another continuing resolution, so our troops are not being provided the resources they need or the pay raise that they have earned. Prescription drugs continue to rise. We have, again, a trade agreement that would only make America and our economy stronger, especially when we're dealing with Mexico. The only person I saw yesterday doing the job that they were elected to do was the President of the United States. Meeting with another foreign leader, trying to end ISIS and others, being a part of NATO. But what did we watch inside Ways and Means? The same thing we've seen for the last 3 years. And what's so disappointing about all of this, I watched what Nancy Pelosi said prior to the election. She said they would be different, that they would govern different. But lo and behold, what did we find? We found when they decided who to be chairman of the Judiciary Committee, they didn't pick an individual that said they would fight for the privacy of individuals on the internet. They picked a campaign where Nadler said he would be the very best for impeachment. We watched new freshmen being sworn in. What did they say on the night after they're being sworn in? Did they celebrate a victory? No, they said they wanted to impeach the president. They used different terms than I used there. They came to Congress to impeach a president. They have spent 3 years trying to investigate this president. They have spent their entire majority trying to impeach this president from every single walk. Adam Schiff has continued to lie to the American public when he very first went onto camera and said that he had proof beyond circumstantial evidence. He lied to the American public again when he stood at the position of a chair of the Intel Committee and misread what was in a transcript on purpose. He was so compelling that the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, believed him on national television. He lied again when he told the American public he did not know who this whistleblower was and how hard he wanted to fight to bring the whistleblower forward. He had an opportunity that the whistleblower could come forward, just as we've been able to do in the past with the IRS hearings in the 90s and the others. And it's the 21st century, we could protect the individual more, to actually get the information. But no, that's not the case, because he's driven for one purpose. He's already written the script of where he wants to go on impeachment. He's now just trying to fill in the individuals.
My question was about the vulnerability of Republicans in the election.
I never...
Vulnerability from any of this...
Look, if you want to come here and you want to decide what you're going to do based upon politics, or do you want to stand up for the Constitution? I would hope the Republicans, if this was in a reverse order, that this was a Democrat in the White House, that they would stand for the Constitution the same way. I would hope at the same time that they would never carry themselves in the manner of which I've seen these Democrats purely for political reasons. That these Democrats have voted 3 times for impeachment. If you ask the Democrats, and you could pick and choose who's the leader of the Democrats, but I think there's a young freshman woman that pretty leads most of the Democrats. What did she say on TV last night? If we don't impeach this president, and I'm paraphrasing, we would not be successful in the next election. The same way who Al Green, a congressman and a Democrat on the other side, when he offered the impeachment motion, what did he say? If we don't impeach this president, he's going to win re-election. So the real question that you're asking me should go to the Democrats. Are they doing this for political purposes? Or are they standing for the Constitution? Because I only think only two of them are.
How can you call Schiff a liar?
Because he lied to us.
You don't have any proof that he,
Did-
or do you? If you have
Yes. Let's walk through it.
proof do you have that he
I have a Mueller report who did not see
on
beyond.
the whistleblower?
Oh, so which time do you want to talk about him lying? When he